My guest tonight is a living legend of jazz. He has 14 Grammys, an Oscar, and played keys in one of the greatest bands of all time. Would you please welcome the one and only Herbie Hancock? Talk about that, okay, because once everyone in this building found out that Herbie Hancock was coming on the show, it's like everyone stopped by my office to say, Herbie Hancock's coming, I'm so excited. What is that like, to travel around the world and have people just excited you're coming?
What do you think? I love it. You
Let's go back to the start, right? You've been writing and recording songs since the 1960s. I want to play a little bit of one right now that everyone will recognise. 1964, you released Cantaloupe Island. Now, I'd like to play more, but I can't afford it. Now, when you recorded that, did you have any idea how that was going to echo through time like that?
Not a clue. I had no idea. And somehow it keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. Ka-ching.
Now, going back, you were always good at music, though. You at the age of 11, you played piano with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. But what was it that made you want to go into jazz?
Well, when I was 14, I had already been playing piano for 7 years by that time. And I wasn't really interested in jazz. I thought, well, to play jazz, you have to be older, at least 19. You know? So the high school I went to had a variety show every semester. And it's one particular variety show, they had a jazz trio. And the pianist was my age. And he was improvising. And they were smiling, they were having a good time, the kids were enjoying it. And he was doing something on my instrument that I couldn't do, which was to improvise. That's when I decided, I want to learn how to improvise. I want to learn how to play jazz.
You learned from some amazing people. You played in possibly the greatest jazz band of all time, the Miles Davis Quintet. I've got to ask you something. When you hear a Miles Davis song, you know it's him on the trumpet, right? And he plays the same trumpet as everyone else. How do you know that it's Miles every time?
It's the heart. You can feel it. You can tell with that. First of all, he has his own sound, and it's warm, and it's rich, but it just has some essence, some spiritual, non-tangible thing about it that just goes right through the brain, right to your heart, right through the ears.
They look like hearing aids, but I have a feeling you're listening to Miles in there right now.
I didn't want to tell you, Charlie.
I would completely understand. But I got to say, you are very complimentary to a man who also sacked you while you're on your honeymoon.
Well, he didn't have it come across that way. And I understood exactly what he did and why he did it. What happened was I got food poisoning on my honeymoon. Right? Honeymoon night, food poisoning. I've been married 50 years. So I advise every guy, get food poisoning the first night. Yeah.
Traumatic experiences can bring people together, that's true.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was supposed to be gone 2 weeks. So I called Miles and said, I'm sorry, I can't go back because of this food poisoning. And actually, I'm not sure if he believed it. I was in Rio de Janeiro.
I hear it's a wonderful place to have food poisoning.
Yeah, right. So he hired another pianist to take my place because that was a gig that we were supposed to play. The pianist was Chick Corea.
Yeah, wow.
Who is amazing, right? And one of my best friends, right? So if Miles hadn't said, look, Herbie, if you take your break now, because he knew I wanted to take a break, he said that would make it better for me. That forced me to put my own band together. It was the best thing that could have happened to me at that time. because, yeah.
Thank you, food poisoning.
Yeah, right. I'm glad they agreed because I wasn't sure.
Now, there is another thing that you have had in common with Miles, apart from the music, of course. You outed yourself a few years ago as having had a crack addiction in your 50s, which is quite late in the game to pick up a crack addiction.
Well, it was a drug I knew something about. Cocaine wasn't the same as heroin. Problem was, that's not something you can do one time and like immediately walk away from. And I didn't know it until I did it that one time. And I remember saying to myself, oh crap, I used another word than that. I shouldn't have done this, you know. And then I had to hide it from everybody for years, from my family. And at a certain point, my wife realized something is extremely wrong, and she suspected it was some kind of drug thing. And then there was an intervention. And there were not only two dear friends of mine, but my daughter that were there. I was so embarrassed and shocked, but so happy that this was the end of that. And it was. That was the end of it. So I went to rehab.
You're now 79. Yes. You are still recording new music. You are still touring the world.
Right.
What is the secret to that longevity? Is it your music or is it your Buddhism?
Buddhism has been a big part of my life. Now, I've been chanting, practicing Nichiren Buddhism for now 46, almost 47 years. And it has just opened my life up in ways that I never could have conceived before. As a matter of fact, I see that experience with cocaine as being a really positive one from a broader perspective. Because I understand now there isn't a certain kind of person that can get caught up with that. Mm. Human beings are not divided into those who are good and those who are bad. Human beings are all both good and bad. You want to find a bad person? Look in the mirror. Want to find a good person? Look in the mirror. Buddhism taught me that.
Well, we are very lucky in Australia that we have the opportunity to listen to you. You're touring around the country later this month. It has been a joy having you here on The Weekly. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Herbie Hancock.
Thank you so much.